Afternoon. This is Paula from Solo Creative Hub, and today we're going to talk about templates. I come from a digital print world, which means that I work with templates as part of my job. And one of the things I like about templates is that they can speed up my design process and they can help me make sure that I'm getting things right as I move forward with my documents. So what I'm going to do today is, because I like to make sure that my stickers are within my print area, within the registration marks, I add guidelines to it. And because I also tend to work around a theme in a project, I'm going to set up a 5-page project, and I am going to show you guys how to use guidelines to help make sure that, number one, you're within the print area that you're working in, and number two, have a document that's set up so that you can move ahead quickly in the projects that you want to put together. I'm also going to show you the different ways that you can access the guidelines within Create. And if you guys have any questions, be sure to shoot me a comment. I will get back to you within the next 24 to 48 hours after I put this up. So let's get started. So here we have the Solo Create software. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click New Project. And I am going to name this 5-page template, because that's what I'm going to do, is set up 5 pages. I'm going to leave my mat size at 8.5 by 11 because that's the size sticker paper I use. And then I'm just going to click OK, and that's going to open a new project. Now, by default, I have Show Grid turned off. There are times I work with Show Grid, there are times I don't. This is going to be one of the times that I don't, because I want to be able to see where everything is falling on the page, and I don't want any extra lines to bother my view of that. So the first and easiest way to add grid lines, actually the first thing I'm going to do is actually set up the next 5 pages, or the next 4 pages in addition to this first page. So I am going to go ahead, I'm going to click Add New. I'm going to click, I'm just going to leave it page 2, and then I am going to go ahead and do that for the next 3 pages. I'm leaving the background of the page white, just because it's easy for me to see and do the work I need to do. If you change colors, you've got to be really careful when you do it, because there's some combinations of colors that are really hard to see on the page, and I'll talk about that a little bit when I talk about choosing the colors you want your grid lines or guidelines to be. Over here, if you look in the document properties, you'll see that we have Show Grid Lines on. I also have my print margins, and I also have my registration marks turned on. The reason why I want my registration marks and my print marks turned on is because my registration marks define where my print area is, and the print margins define where I can cut on the page. So you can have cut lines outside your print area, but you cannot have your print area in where you have your cut lines. So, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. So the quickest and easiest way to add guidelines on here is to just come up, go to the ruler up here at the top, and you're going to pull horizontal guidelines and you're going to pull vertical guidelines. I'm going to pull the horizontals first. So I am going to go here and I am going to click on that ruler, and then I'm going to pull down to the bottom of the page, and I'm going to drop the guideline over the horizontal bar of the registration mark. Like I said, I want to be able to clearly see where I can print and where I can cut. So I'm going to go back up here to the horizontal ruler. I'm going to pull down again, and this time I'm just going to go to the registration marks at the top. I'm going to drop that guideline there, And then I'm going to go over here to the vertical ruler, and I'm going to click on it, and I'm going to pull it over here to the right hand side, and I'm going to try to do a pretty good job of lining it up with that registration mark. And then I am going to go ahead and do that again, and this time I'm going to go to the left hand side and line it up with the registration mark. Now I have those marks on there, and I know exactly that I cannot go outside of this line, this line, this line, or this line if I am printing. Now, unfortunately, Create does not have a way that you can just duplicate a page and all of this data gets copied over into the next page, which is why I'm going through and setting up a template. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm actually going to click on the edit button here on the document, and I am going to click lock on this because these are where I'm going to lock my, these are going to lock down the guidelines. I can't move them. I can't accidentally, move them to another part of the page, whatever. So I'm going to go ahead, click OK. And then I'm going to go over here to page 1 because I was on page 5 when I did that. And now you can see that I have a clear thing again, and I need to set those up. Now, I showed you that I can come over here onto the document tab, and I can click this edit, and this pulls up the guidelines window. And you can see I have a space for horizontal and I have a space for vertical. I can remove all horizontal, I can remove all vertical. I can choose which type of guideline I'm looking at, horizontal or vertical. I can pick a color, and color becomes important because if there's not enough contrast, it's hard to see the guideline on the page. And there's no way to make the guideline bigger or smaller. It just is what it is. It's a little dotted line. Excuse me. But you can see I've got visible. I have nothing here for horizontal and vertical. So I want to add guidelines to this. So I'm going to go ahead. I am going to come up here and I am going to enter the values for the horizontal and the vertical guidelines that I want. So the first one I'm going to enter is 4.59, and my Y is 0.28, and I'm going to click add. And that's going to add it, and it's going to drop that guideline right here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here, and I'm going to change this to 2.64 and 10.71. And again, I'm going to click add. Now, if I wanted to change the color of my guideline at this point, let's say I wanted it to be blue instead of black, I would click on that. I would come in here and I would select the blue like this, and I click OK. And it's going to change that color to blue. And when I click add, it's going to add a blue line down here. Now I'm going to change my type to vertical. And this first one, the X is going to be 0.28 inches. And then this is going to be 3.41 inches. And I'm going to click add. And that adds the guide on the right, or the left-hand side, excuse me. And then I'm going to change this to 8.28 and 4.9. And I'm going to click add, and it's up. You can see here that mine is a little bit off. So I can adjust that number now that I've got it in here. I can also remove it. So if I go ahead and I click on this and I say remove this guideline, that guideline right there just disappeared. And that's one of the reasons why I hid the grid lines on this, is so you can see the actions happening. So I'm going to go here and let's change that to 0.8 instead of 0.9. I'm going to add this. Whoops, still didn't quite get it right. So let's say I'm going to change this to 4.75, and I'm going to modify this one. It's still not quite right. 4.28. How about 2.5? Modify. Ah, there we go. Okay, this might actually be 0.24. I'm going to click modify again, and it moved that over so that it's right on top of that registration mark. So you can manually do that. I'm going to go ahead and lock this down, and then I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set up the guides for the other 3 pages. If I want to go through the menu at the top, I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go down here to Guidelines, and I'm going to click on Edit Guidelines, and that's going to put that guidelines window back up on the screen, and I can go ahead and edit it. I can go ahead, if I've got this window open, I cannot use the rulers, so I'm going to go ahead and click OK. I'm going to do this using the rulers because I want to show you guys some stuff here. So if I totally screw up these guidelines here, and I don't want to keep them, I can come up here, go to that View Guidelines, and I can click Clear Guidelines, and it's only going to clear the guidelines on this page. All the, whoops, no, I don't want to pick, all these other guidelines are going to be here. I can remove all of the vertical. If I screw up the verticals, I can remove just the verticals. If I screw up the horizontals, I can remove just the horizontals. If I want to remove them all, I go up to this menu and I select View Remove Guidelines. So View Guidelines, Clear Guidelines, and that will clear all of them. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go back here to page 2. This time I'm going to make sure that my guidelines are correct. And just to do that. And then I'm going to go in, edit, and I'm going to lock all the guidelines. And the reason why I'm locking them is so that they don't accidentally move. I don't accidentally click on them and move them somewhere else. It's just a good way to keep everything in the place I want it to be. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to do that right here, 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 and here. Move that just a little bit more so it's right on top of that registration mark. Again, go to the View Guidelines, lock guidelines. That will lock all of those guidelines into place. And then one more that I've got to do this for. Oh, that one's a little bit goofy, but that's okay. All right. So let's go here and let's View Guidelines, Lock Guidelines. So these guidelines on this template are now all locked down. I don't have to worry about them moving in the course of me working in the document. And I've got a clear idea of what I am working on and where my print area is. So anything within the registration marks is going to be where my print, my graphics have to be, so they get printed. I can cut up to the print margin. I try not to get super duper close to the print margin because it'll look funky if it overruns the print margin, depending on what I'm working on and what I have here. But for the most part, this is done. Now, what I'm going to do is save this and save project as. And I am going to go ahead, and I've actually got a sticker folder for my business where I put all of my I put all of my create folders. So I'm going to add a new folder here. I'm working on a Mac. This is going to be a little bit different process if you're working on a PC. I work on both. I work on a PC at work, and I work on a Mac at home. So I'm going to call this template files, and I'm going to create that new template. And then I'm going to change this to 5-page template. And I'm actually going to label it 8.5 by 11. So I know what the template size, what size page I'm working with, and I am going to save this. So now when I want to work and I want to create a new file, I'm going to go ahead and close this. And what I'll do is it'll show up in my recent projects, and you can see that you can see in the recent projects when I hover over it, that file name shows up in that recent projects things. I can highlight this here. It will go and click on it. It will open it up. Now, what I want to do when because I want to save this as another file, so I'm going to do project save as, and I'm going to go up and I'm going to go to sticker create file, and I am going to go here into sea creatures, and I am going to change this to seaweed template. It's going to be a seaweed sticker thing. So when I go here and save this, it changes the name of the file right up here, and I've got 5 pages that I can work with straight off the bat, and I don't have to spend, time setting all these print areas up because it's already done. Unfortunately, Create doesn't allow that. I usually work in Adobe products, so I'm used to having that functionality. I can create a master page and just apply it to a file, but Create doesn't have that functionality. So if I'm going to do this, I can set up this template, put it in my templates folder, and then I can, when I want to work with a 5-page template, because I know that's how many themed items I'm going to have in that template, I can go ahead, open this up, rename it, save it into the appropriate folder, and go ahead and get to work. So if you liked this video, please take the time to like the video down below and subscribe to my channel. I really appreciate it. You subscribing helps me get the word out about the solo cutter and the Create software. And I love this product. I'm so glad I went with this product instead of some of the other cutters on the market. Please take a moment, like, subscribe, share it with other friends you think might be interested, and y'all have a good weekend. I'll be putting up another template design here in a little bit. So if you guys have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comments below. Thanks, and have a great day.